Candace Owens open letter to President Donald Trump, latest unhinged rant EP 322. Let the horn sound. Check the link of an open letter to President Donald Trump from Candace Owens in the description box. At Kimberly Wood 2167. Charlie died free, you will die a slave, that hit hard, man. At Naya 2025 I2L. I love how he calls CNN fake news in the same post. He brags about 100% approval rating on CNN. At Hifronthiki. It was never left versus right, it was always them versus we the people. At Matt Hoditsaloli 1244. Wow, he can comment on Candace, but not on the files. At user U6T4K. Candace has presented more evidence that Bridget is a man than Trump has presented that Iran is a threat to the USA. Think about that. At Pat Williams 676. Didn't Trump have both Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly on his campaign tour to speak? Now he's insulting them, really? At Memunderstated 7133. Netanyahu is the worst US president we have had. At Deoxyribonucleic acid 4. I am in disbelief that someone like Laura Loomer is being taken seriously by anyone at any level of reality. We really do live in upside-down world. At Bellypoke 1291. Man, those files must be insane. At Sunshine Garden 21. If it weren't for Alex Jones, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, or Charlie Kirk, Trump would not be president. At Jessica Tucker 91. We need not as pretty as Bridget Macron merch. At Good Dog Xanto. With a friend like Trump, you don't need any enemies. At Small Bird 8. Calling Bridget more attractive than Candace is a true war crime. At A Vera Port Live. Wow, thanks for showing one of my clips on your show, Candace. I appreciate it. Means a lot. I watch this show all the time and just know I got your back. America First United States. Trump has lost the plot. At Roshana Crystal. People will not fight beside, behind, or for someone who is fundamentally disloyal. At Ethereal Echo _Zoxo. Your response to the president was top-notch, Candace. 5 out of 5. At Premonition News 59. This is so painful to see. I have walked away from this president. In my 60s, I am mortified. I voted for no war. At Sarad 8093. My 15-year-old son has been adamant about joining the army when he turns 18. He even asked if he could join at 17, and I said absolutely not. He knows what's going on in this country, and just yesterday he said he no longer wants to join. I am delighted because I don't want him killing innocent people or fighting bankers' wars. At J. Banthony. Just a reminder that you can't trust anyone running for office ever. At Jana Vanden Heuvel 810. I so fell for his "No New Wars" slogan. What a scam. He needs to resign. He is not doing anything that he promised. We don't want him as a president anymore. At Cami Roundtree. Thank you, Candace, for coming off of your time off to address this. At Meaning Heals. The fake CNN gave him 100% approval rating. Makes sense. At Maria 9941. Candace Owens versus Donald Trump was not in my 2026 bingo card, but I'm sad. At Colorfunkids. Wow, Loomer is unhinged. I appreciate the way Candace refrains from ranting and yelling and just calmly, but firmly presents the facts and the logic. At Veriardes 4726. OMG to me, what Megyn said about Trump not sitting in the main chair at the table during the meeting with Netanyahu says it all. I could never have imagined Trump sitting in a side chair in his own office, ever. At MJ.6392. I died of laughter when Candace zoomed in on Bridget's swimsuit photo. At Bellypoke 1291. Larry Loomer is just worried Candace will start a Becoming Laura series. At Jojo VE8DD. We need Bridget is hotter merch, please. At Libby25. Laura Loomer is 32. WTF. She looks 50. At ThinkBeforia Type 7106. Laura Loomer has a face she deserves. At Snipes Reacts. The biggest red flag for me is the fact that Candace is going so hard for her boy Charlie and his wife isn't. At PKGW2RZ. I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, couldn't fall back asleep, and didn't know this gem was on here. Thank you, Candace 1309. As someone who supported him even though I was always embarrassed by his tweeting, I'm so happy that a beautiful, brilliant woman can so eloquently put him in his place. At the Ashman42. Hottest might be a nod that we Americans are in hell. At Cogito Ergosum 2024. They are nut jobs and troublemakers, and nobody's talking about them. As he's, the President of the United States, talking about them. At Legacy_fishing. Every time I see E.T. dressed up as Bridget I die. At Vipebidezine, me3UW. Dear Mr. President, nobody watches TV anymore. At Amy Odie. Being gay for Bridget Macron, Emmanuel Macron, Donald Trump. At Chewing the Void. This was basically Candace explaining the assignment while Trump realized he didn't study. At Abundance Love. Charlie died free. What an awesome statement. Only Candace followers would understand this. At Jen.U. Ainley made. Trump is BB's puppet. He betrays the US all day every day. God bless America and protect us from our shameful POTUS. At Brand71340. Candace, I just want to take a moment to honor you and tell you how deeply proud I am of the life you're living. To witness you walk so boldly, so unapologetically, and with such conviction is something that has truly touched me in a profound way. As a Black man, seeing your courage and clarity inspires something real in my spirit. It reminds me of what's possible when purpose meets fearlessness. There's an anointing on your life that is undeniable. It's not forced. It's not performative, it flows effortlessly. The way you stand, speak, and move carries a weight and a grace that feels rare, almost historic. It honestly brings to mind that same kind of presence and impact that shifts culture and challenges people to think deeper on a level that echoes greatness. But what makes it even more powerful is how naturally you do it. There's no strain in your excellence. You embody it. Thank you for being who you are. Thank you for showing up fully. And thank you for inspiring people like me who are watching and being moved in ways that are hard to even put into words. With deep respect and admiration. At Cynthia Underwood, E8Q. We need a separation between synagogue and state. At Veronica Gallo 2624. If it weren't for Charlie Kirk, PeopleZ, and MAGA, Trump would not be president. At Jody McKenzie 3526. In my 71 years of life, I have always felt the despair of what happened to the Jewish people in WW11. Also absolutely horrified by the savage attack on October 7th of Jews in Israel. What is happening now in the Middle East and becoming more aware of the influence of the Israeli government worldwide and particularly in the West, I cannot feel the same despair as I have in the past. The attacks on people just because they ask questions is becoming intolerable. As a believer in free speech, no matter how offensive that speech may be, I will always defend the right of everyone to express their personal opinions. Increasingly, though, we are seeing that free speech eroded for all the world's people except two groups: Jews and Muslims. I ask why? At ThinkBeforia Type 7106. As you probably know, I represent the Rothschilds. Jeffrey Epstein to Peter Thiel, February 2016. At CAC 1578. A narcissist always turns on those who see through them. At Tambers 43. On behalf of all of us / those who don't have a way to speak to Trump directly, thank you, Candace. At 6Fupin 4892. I'm a liberal and I agree with a lot of this. Maybe we could get along again after we get this nut out of office. At NewVibes_. We're on the brink of WW3. People can't afford gas or groceries or a house. But at least Trump is focused on the real issue. Podcast hosts. UGH, I'm so over this pointless drama nonsense. It's not the podcast host's fault for calling Trump out on not fulfilling his campaign promises. It's Trump's fault for being compromised. At Jennifer McIntyre. Candace and Tucker are going max because Charlie would be by their side if these monsters didn't kill him. Trump admitting that he's not going heaven. Indeed, we see why. We miss you, Charlie. At Geraldine Turnbow 5801. As an American, I am so proud of you, Candace Owens, for speaking out and telling the truth about Trump betrayal. The truth about Trump's and his administration's corruption and betrayal needed to be told. At Edna Ryman 4554. Israel is controlling Trump. He turned on every one of us. Send Ben Shapiro to Israel. I had enough of this. At Shuri92 Anto. Charlie Kirk obviously had to be killed because he was the last sane person in Trump's years. Kirk is gone, and so is basic human decency. God help us. At SK6552. We're the hottest country in the world because we're descending into hell. At Anibgood. The assassination of Charlie Kirk will become the biggest new political party Americans have ever known. The reason for which he was assassinated is the very thing that's going to backfire, and it already has. At Hassanave 6791. The killing or assassination of Charlie Kirk was a message to Trump. At Mr. PMC McMental. Trump is humiliating himself and America. Trump sold his soul to the devil. He could have been the best president in history if he actually did what people wanted, and he surrounded himself with the people he now attacks. He's just got the Israel lobby now, and he's falling apart in real time. At Tracio Truiscamp 1012. I am so disappointed in Trump. It was the independent podcasters that got him elected this time. At Affabila. Is Hot Girl Summer being led by Bridget Macron took me out. At Cyclepreneur 4454. Guys, can we take a moment to consider the possibility that is all one big plan by Trump plus Tucker and other independent media outlets? That Trump cannot defeat the beast from within. It's too far corrupt, too far pro-Israel to change anything. That he has to in fact throw himself under the bus, citing CNN of all things, and go against his best, most loyal freedom thinkers who helped him get elected, because this is the only way for real, long-lasting change in politics. Where we elect a non-compromise party, an independent, if it's even possible anymore, to not get assassinated these days on the campaign trail. But for that to happen, Trump has to destroy his own party's politics. Vance moves out of the way too. It's a fascinating move and could well be part of a larger movement Trump is willing to alienate himself from, in order to make it happen. It's just a wild theory that has some merit, don't we think? Surely he's not this stupid as to meet with Tucker several times, only to call him low IQ? I'm convinced this is the play. And if one day we find out it's true, this comment will indeed be one of the first to point it out. Good luck, Candace. We've got your back. At Herslong. This felt different. There's something uncomfortably palpable in the air. I appreciate you, Mrs. Owens, Tucker, Ian, Barron, Coach, and everyone else using their voice. I'm not religious. I'm not Republican. I'm just a 30-something-year-old married man who served my country and doesn't recognize the country I served. It's been sad and overwhelming at times, but I truly and genuinely appreciate you guys. At Zen Mountain. No person older than 70 should be ever allowed to run for office again. At Marias 1672. I am beyond appalled, disgusted, and embarrassed as an American in that our so-called president, who I believed in and voted for, would write such a juvenile letter and have it sent to anyone. I have never before, in my 67 years, been more concerned and frightened by the state of my country as I am now. Many thanks to you, Candace, for coming forward and commenting on this letter, as you did an outstanding commentary on it. Again, how damn embarrassing this is to our country and to the office of presidency. May God help us all. At Camary Knockout. My baby girl, I missed you so much. This has been the longest week. At Ferga 10 Hollywood Soul Sprayer. Instead of draining the swamp, it looks like he has decided to build a Trump hotel on its banks. At Randall Stradling. As a 3-time Trump voter, I have now fully jumped off this once great Trump train. He frankly doesn't represent me anymore, especially after his latest Truth Social post. Shameful. From the so-called golden age in America to the strict confines of the Israeli cage, Trump has become compromised by something, and he is someone that I don't recognize anymore. Very sad. Much to Candace, Tucker, Megan, and to many, many others. We love you. America first, baby. At Anonymous 4158. Candace, you truly are the bravest woman I've ever known. Never stop speaking truth and giving us all the strength and courage to do the same. May our daughters grow to be half the women you are. May God always have you and your family in his hands. At the Cybermantis. It's crazy to think the USA gives taxpayer money to Israel, and they turn around and use that money to buy American politicians. Talk about cutting your own throat. Politicians who accept bribes from a foreign country are committing treason. All the people want is cheap gas, cheap groceries, affordable insurance and healthcare, and safe neighborhoods. But I guess that is asking for too much. Shame on us. At Nikki Rojas 3534. Yeah, who the heck watches Candace and Tucker? Millions. Literally millions. Bring out the details of the evil we already knew existed. At Cutter's Corner. I replied to Trump's post on Truth. I said, for someone who demands loyalty, he is the most disloyal person I've seen. It was deleted within 60 seconds tops. No joke. The people he used to get elected he has fired or turned on. I voted for him 3 times, and I'm sick about it. I feel like I have blood on my hands because I voted for him. I live in farm country. I have an MBA. I've yet to meet an uneducated farmer who is not way smarter than I am. I am also a disabled combat veteran. I'm disgusted by this man. I want to know what Jared has on his daughter. Is Trump being handled? Not giving him an excuse, just asking. I'm disgusted. He is weak. You're absolutely correct, Candace. I have no respect for a weak man, weakness period. Especially no respect for a weak leader. Commenting on a woman's appearance is like a little boy on a playground. Ooh, you're ugly. What is that? Who cares who he thinks is attractive? You, Tucker, Meghan are all attractive people. You are absolutely beautiful inside and out. Most importantly, you're American citizens. It wouldn't matter if you were but ugly. Is he only president for pretty people? I'm freaking furious. So, I guess if you don't meet his definition of attractive, he's not your president and therefore we owe him nothing. You may not be angry, but there are Americans who are very angry. He needs to be removed from office now. At Weirwriter. God bless you, Candace. Well said. Christ is king. You are right, we don't bring anything with us to the afterlife, but our souls. Well, those of us who still have ours. Sad. At PD17564. How do none of you understand it's not Trump putting out these things on social media? He is a prisoner, an actor. He was taken over a while back. Like most politicians. At Shell Santana 876. Charlie died free. Candace, this gave me chills. Spot on. At Thomas Nuclear. Mega died when Trump asked, "Are you still talking about the Epstein files? America first or revolution?" At Talking Tinkerbell 959. The first casualty of the Israel government was John Fitzgerald Kennedy. At Heidi Hi. There's no fool like an old fool. At Think Beforia Type 7106. It's going to take a lot of artificial sweetener to make Laura Loomer a honeypot. Jimmy Dore. At Just Something to Think About 8515. Trump betrayed his base, betrayed MAGA. He has chosen to be among the Epstein class. Trump is chained by BB and the little country, and sold his soul to Satan. America first. Christ is king. We know no. At KZ1994 Abel. Calling Bridget more beautiful than Candace was the last straw for me. Trump has lost his damn mind. In the WRDS of the great Michael Jordan. Stop it. Get some help. At Duffel. I am questioning the sanity of a person who calls an 80-year-old trans hot. At Blueskysats. Remember how enslaved you are when you pay your taxes on April 15th. It's literally taxation without representation because none of us voted for any of this. At Ari. Q6S3N. That letter, IMO, is even more evidence that Charlie Kirk was taken out. They wouldn't be able to handle Charlie Kirk opposing the war and demanding the Epstein files to be fully released. Especially with CK's huge platform and huge influence. At Xizzle316. It's 2021 January 6 trials are going on. Trump is facing prison and losing everything. Charlie is buying a ring to propose. Candace is at the Daily Wire, but her and CK are determined to get Trump back in office. Who would believe 5 years later Trump would be president? Charlie would be dead and Trump turned on both of them and all of MAGA. He then says how beautiful a PDF dude in France is. At Mary with Wrinkles 9542. Praise the Lord for the pack on the internet keeping us sane. God bless. At Edward Ramirez 8589. That intro was fire. The slaves are starting to wake up for sure, and we are done with all of this. We have been given freedoms by our Creator, and it's time we claim them back. At Charlesel5251. Release the Epstein files. At Jessica Scott, D1L. When asked how fascism starts, Bertrand Russell once said, "First, they fascinate the fools with lies. Then, they muzzle the intelligent." At Amadal, Itna 1200. Never thought I'd become anti-Israel, pro-Iran, support Candace, Alex, and Tucker, but here we are in 2026. At Melissa Hodge 2448. My 10-year-old had to have emergency surgery to save her finger from a freak accident at school. We privately pay over $1,000 a month for insurance. BC, we have a small business. It cost me an extra $1,100 to get a surgery policy. I didn't know we didn't have one. So I paid $2,100 this month for insurance to pay a portion of my bill to save a little girl's finger. The insurance had me call the hospital. Conway Regional Hospital said they discount the bill by 78% from $3,200.00 without or cash, but with insurance it was $16,000, and that didn't include the surgeon. That is a shameful scam on all Americans. If prices at hospitals were not inflated, maybe, just maybe, Americans could afford healthcare. We got her finger fixed, but the sweat of our backs. We can't be alone in this kind of scam. At Howard 977. You four should do a podcast together immediately. The Four Horsemen forever. At Robert Powell 2247. There should be law that states that people who are elected to public office must commit fully to their campaign promises or face dismissal. At Shelley_Redder. We love you, Candace. Continue doing God's work. We will continue praying for you. Love you, from South Africa, South Africa. At Carmen Carmencita 5422. That picture of Bridget in swim sway almost made me spill my coffee. Wow. At Rosie Thorns 2000. He forgot to write, "Thank you for your attention to this matter." At Ms. Lopez. Someone needs to get Father Ripperger or another exorcist out to the White House now. Paula White has fed his demons of pride and ego, and he is straight up possessed. Trump is now a puppet of Bibi, the devil and his demons. At archivar.art89. Wow. That was the first time I've heard Laura Loomer speak. 36 years of neurological growth has been stunted from hearing that absolute word slop garbage. Really hoping I can go another 36. At SaltyCat, D5Z. Does Laura even realize Donnie will kick her to the curb like everyone else? At Seamus Murphy N2E. Candace, my friend, your monologue on Trump's message was absolutely brilliant and profound. God bless you. All we can do now is to pray for Trump that he can break the chains of his slavery and turn on his captors and save the children regardless of the cost. Trump's top priority now should be in doing the right thing and saving his soul. At Sam_2024_Sam. This blood sacrifice ritual theory is so on point. There is a pattern. The Iranian school victims, Virgin Island victims, Gaza victims, even Bar el-Bakr school back in 1970. Kids are the victims. At Debbie Dyson, Holland 2017. I had so much hope that Trump was going to be the one to save the world. Crying here in Australia, as all hope has disintegrated after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and it was so obvious there was a cover-up. I crossed my fingers, hand on heart, praying the government he helped get elected was not a part of this plot. We are not stupid, and I lost my faith in MAGA. I'm sure other countries were hoping we would get a great example to follow. Disappointing, disheartening, depressing with what has transpired. Would never thought I would see the day Trump sliding in the chair of a creep, like his slave. At Carlimkalinden 2587. This young woman, Candace, has nerves of steel. I cannot imagine having enough balls, for lack of a better word, to stand up to the POTUS with a steady hand and a firm voice. At Terry H. C8R. I was hoping Candace would end her open letter to Donald Trump by saying, "Mr. President, you should have listened to Charlie Kirk." At Jess's Girl 7624. Yeah, 3-time voter here, and this was the final straw for me. No new wars was a promise many of us took to heart, and again our voices were not heard. Members of another country have silenced us. Little tidbit I learned today. AIPAC has significantly increased its direct financial involvement in U.S. elections, contributing to or spending in over 80% of the 469 congressional seats up for re-election in 2024, targeting 363 House seats and 26 Senate seats. AIPAC-backed candidates won 98% of their 2024 general election races. So it is at all levels their influence, and at this point you are either part of it or refuse to believe your own eyes if you disagree. We voted for America first, and we aren't giving up on that movement. Funny how the evil thinks it can win, but all those with God truly in our hearts know the truth. Darkness will always be swallowed by the light. Godspeed, Candace, I am praying for you. Plus you have an amazing guardian angel in Charlie still by your side the whole way. At Rob Vero 566. America is not ready for a change. Americans will still vote for these two parties. For people like Lindsey Graham and Kamala, they will still talk about left and right, and will still be manipulated through religion, all for the benefit of a few sick individuals. We all know that way too many Americans still talk like Trump in that message. Violence is still part of our DNA, and we can't get rid of it. Violence, religion, and political ideology will still be used to manipulate us. The government should be free of parties and religions, free of outside financial influence, just people doing a job, paid and rated based on performance. Candace and all other major personalities have to address this. This is America. At Lieselmack. How could Kushner and Witkoff represent America in negotiations if they are not accountable to anyone, but only to Israel and growing their own empires of wealth? At Prigs 1264. Thank you for speaking up for the forgotten men and women, the plumbers, nurses, medical technicians, HVAC and carpenters, groundskeepers of golf courses, caregivers, garbage men, all whom he promised to put first. They've all been left for last. We'd argue that Charlie Kirk was in large part responsible for Donald Trump's presidency. His behavior towards his base, and Charlie says it all. He put in an ounce of the energy into finding out who was truly behind Charlie's assassination and persuade them as he does putting down his original supporters, the people that gave their blood, sweat, and tears to get him elected. We would be a hopeful, united, thriving nation. But here we are praying for the pawns in this most dangerous place in time and history. Praying our men and women come home and praying they come home to the America United States we all dreamed of after the election. By maybe some divine intervention. At WhaleThink. Do not vote for any Democratic or Republican candidate funded by AIPAC and supporting Israel. At Stacey Sturkey 1562. Candace, please somehow have a panel discussion with Tucker, Megan, Alex, and yourself on the current state of our country, where we are and where we're going if it's not corrected. Thank you for your hard work. At Sime 1984. What's funny is Israel will still release Trump's Epstein files at the end of his silly reign. At Naya_8000. The majority of Americans are now aware of the hidden agenda of the Israel lobby. The interests of the U.S. and Israel are not aligned. They want U.S. soldiers to die for their expansion, the Greater Israel Project. At D. Simon CrossFit. The irony of Trump calling Candace low IQ in a childish, inarticulate rant filled with caps and swooning over the beauty of ET would be more entertaining if I didn't think our country was doomed. At Peter Hatch, MX7ZC. Just how corrupt is America? Corruption running wild. But it's always been like this. At Doksch. This was the most powerful thing I have ever seen. Balls of steel. At Deborah Seraphin 8253. This was the worst ever Trump tweet, by far. Absolutely incoherent and very telling at the same time. I was embarrassed for him. I was embarrassed for us that our president displayed this mentality to the public. At Petrovich Zoran 1965. She wiped the floor with Trump. Absolute destruction. At Autorusso 7378. 2048. That is 100% irrefutable. Anyone that has not been on board with Iran has been thrown to the wayside, and Charlie would be no different. Charlie wasn't about to change his position on that either. He clearly articulated reasons why we shouldn't concern ourselves with Iran. At the Migrant Entrepreneur. Ecclesiastes 10 verse 16. Woe to you, O land, when your king is a child. At the National Exaggerator. This could cost Candace her life. Seriously. Please pray for her, Tucker, and Megan. At Marcelina. Wow. Wow. Another mic drop from Candace, and I am so here for it. At Linka Davies. M8C5J. OMG, Trump is a fucking moron. Actually, scrap that, they're all fucking moronic. This has to be a simulation because it's preschool behavior. At Jaxer. Is Mark Levin writing Trump's tweets? XD. At Susie Richmond 3477. Reminder, Candace is not suicidal. At Sean Loomis, H9V. I vote 3 times for him. I was literally with him when he won in 2016. I'm so embarrassed of him now. I rid of all my signs and flags I saved. I'm even more disappointed in myself for believing him. At Nate Martin, E5Z. I just love Candace. I would truly be one lucky man to find a woman with her intelligence, grace, and ability to stay cool, calm, and collected during times of absolute ridicule of her by others. She absolutely destroys Donald Trump here, and in what Israeli loving, delusional world would anyone say the Bridget is more attractive than Candace? I once had respect and reverence for President Donald J. Trump. Now I only have regret and contentment. I am trying to have patience in counting the days left in his term, and I pray he stops with Iran. We cannot afford to follow Israel any longer. Keep being the upstanding, intelligent, graceful, and, might I say, very attractive and strong woman God made you to be. We are all so proud to see how you handle the ravings of a madman. Keep doing you, Candace. We love you. At Cassis1. As sad as this is, I am grateful to Trump for showing us so clearly the good versus evil in this world. Our eyes are wide open now. At Sunflower Heart 1. Trump's comments only made me question his IQ. At Amy Estridge 2356. ET is cuter than Bridget. At Rena Bryce, OG2YJ. I cannot believe our president went this low and dirty. He attacked the few people with a platform that are still trusted. And for what reason did he just up and decide to take the time and energy it took to become such a low-down dirty bully? He has become just like the scum he had previously been against. Which is what got him elected. He was different. Not anymore. He is just as bad if not worse. 'Cause he changed up on everyone who voted for him. At John Gatling, S7I. Damn. The Ben Shapiro, F***CKU. Episode was a cult classic and one of Candace's best. This Donald Trump edition was historic. At Love I Life Familias Business 5914. The swimsuit shot had me crying laughing. At Tidbrits. Candace, your response was pure gold. At Dextro0PCT. 007. What does Mossad have on Trump? It's gotta be existential. No other reason I could think why the most narcissistic man on earth would succumb to such constant and global humiliation. Bibi Netanyahu will go down in history as the Israeli prime minister who lost America. At Smallbird8. Charlie would be in this list. Hits hard 'cause it's true and they know it. At Jill the Reckless. He is the emperor with no clothes, and he is pitching a fit against anyone that notices. At Simple Living Slow Living. One nation under blackmail. It must be something really bad in the files for Trump to commit this crime, calling Bridget more beautiful than Candace. At Jaspire. Anytime a large number of people strongly dislike someone, there's usually a reason why. You overlooked his misconduct for years and encouraged others to support a lawless conman. Let that be a lesson to you. Millions of people don't just hate someone for no reason. Adab 3246. Kick Jared Kushner out of our country and take Ivanka Trump with you. Deceivers, betrayers. At Riverdog AVFC. Trump is no longer MAGA, he's fully mega. Make Epstein great again. At Natet 5755. I voted for Trump 3 times, and I've gotta say he's a complete embarrassment and has turned into everything the left said he was all along. What Trump has taught me is that I'll never vote for anyone from either of the 2 uniparty parties. They're all frauds. At Carmen 47 Freixes 96. This world is a sewer, what a smell. Very sick people around. Get rid of all toxic people. I am 80, family included. It's very liberating. At PeopleZ. Thank you for telling the truth, Candace. We need someone in the White House with your courage and conviction. Go Max. At Brenda Palma. Ball versus Moloch is the same as Republicans versus Democrats. At Catherine Ober. Calling Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and Megyn Kelly low IQ is a low IQ thing to say. At Seashell Mermaid. As a person who voted for Trump 3 times, thank you. I regret my vote. Trump has lost his mind. At Gypfully5. Whoever created this Trump is the same creator of the Widowkirk. They are puppets. At Rada Youssef, K5D. I am a Coptic Egyptian Christian. Today was Good Friday. I have taken the decision that henceforth, no matter the horror, provocation, or fearful news I see on social media, my only comment shall be a one-word prayer for all people involved, Kyrie eleison. Lord have mercy. I will shake off the sleep in my eyes, crawl and crouch behind my Savior in Gethsemane as he is passionately praying with tears, cries, and blood for of U.S. horrible, provocative, fearful sinners. Lord Jesus, have mercy upon us. At Laura Jin. Is Hot Girl Summer being led by Bridget Macron? LMAO. OO. At Genevadiament. Charlie didn't go to college either, what an idiot. At 13_13K. Thank you, Candace. You have been the public voice of so many real Americans. This commentary responding to Trump's message is fantastic, smart, truthful, straightforward, professional, with dignity and with the full backing and support from those of us who love this country for what it was, what it should be, and what it will be again. A country that loves God and their family and themselves and who will never surrender their soul and their humanity to the highest bidder. We need to take our country back from the biggest, most evil adversary this country have ever been in conflict with, a foreign sovereign nation that has set up shop on our land but is not a state, doesn't live by our same laws, have their own police force and military that doesn't answer to the American people, and foreign body we've come to find out is our own government. Every aspect of this foreign enemy on a piece of land called the District of Columbia has to be eradicated. It is infested, incestive, and monetarily corrupted and blackmailed, it seems, by other foreign enemies who live among us. We have to stop this. Now. At Carol Rado 5730. Charlie Kirk assassinated was the message to Trump. The NXT day Trump looked distracted, fearful, more frail, and old, like the wind had been knocked out of him. Since then, MAGA betrayal has been unraveling as fast as Satan fell from heaven. At Liz Morks. I am MAGA, or should I say I was MAGA. What is going on with Trump? When he said, "Are we still talking about Epstein?" I was livid and knew he wasn't the supposedly MAGA president I voted for. At New Legacy Comics. You are a goddess, Candace. It's crazy how the movie Eyes Wide Shut isn't streaming on any platform, huh? At Stephanique2944. I don't even think MAGA is a thing anymore. At Vega Chastain. If anyone here is not watching Barron, you're really missing out. He's doing the defense's job for free, bless him. High IQ beats lies. At Jamie Martin 3787. Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law and senior advisor, has played a significant role in Trump's Middle East policy. He has been described as deeply embedded in the architecture of Greater Israel and a lifelong friend of Benjamin Netanyahu. Kushner was named director of the National Economic Council and chief economic advisor, and later replaced by Larry Kudlow, another ultra-Zionist. He has been involved in negotiating the Gaza peace deal, and some sources suggest he was salivating on camera about Gaza being prime real estate. This is from Google. At Bog, B3X. I never expected Trump and Candace to be bitter enemies. What the F is going on? I don't know where to stand anymore. At MadQ62. I'm 63 and I've been wondering, was it better before the internet when American citizens had no idea of the vile, evil and monstrous things going on within our own government, or is it better now that we know at least part of how bad it really is? At Tambob82. Bridget must be thinking, "The fuck did I do this week?" At Devin Brown 6921. I'm 1/3 through and I've never seen her kill it like this. At Char Fraser 1916. This is insane. For a president to tweet this, wow. At Kira Schultzart. While they're sheltering Trump, whatever happened to his son Barron? I thought he had his finger on the pulse of non-boomer Americans? At Avahunkler 4074. Thank you for speaking for us, Candace. 100% how I feel. After voting for him 3 times, praying and crying and angry as hell with 2020 results. Now risking bankruptcy with the housing issues and heating oil, gasoline, insurance prices, and not the least our food. At Claudiag.3036. This is our president. I feel like I'm watching an episode of South Park reading that post. Good grief. At Mscorid. Yeah, after all of the years of campaigning and gaining the people's trust, it's all going down the drain in real time. Good on you, Candace, for pointing out the college example. Most of Trump's constituents are not college educated. He meant it derogatorily, but in my mind it actually takes brains to figure out college has been a scam for ages. But Trump insults Tucker, he insults his constituents. Trump put the final nail in the coffin for any faith that I had in the presidency. Forget government. Government was always going to be lawless and corrupt until the end of time. Count out my vote permanently. At Banjo Monster. They are all 2 cheeks of the same big, rotten arse, left and right. It's all performance. They sit back and watch us all fight amongst each other, while they laugh at us and conspire together behind big closed golden doors. It's always been the way. At Helena, FD8VL. I laughed out loud when Trump said that Madame Macron was a beautiful woman. Much more beautiful than Candace. Who does he think he is kidding? Hilarious. At freedom_CK. MAGA is Mark Levin, Laura Loomer, Lindsey Graham, and Ben Shapiro now. Trump would have no doubt thrown Charlie Kirk under the bus too. At Summeritsluff. I've only ever been registered independent. Wouldn't it be a whole different country if run by independents? These 2 parties have lost their minds. At Anjana Panchal, R3V. Well said, Candace. Trump has been sold to the highest bidder. He's trying to suck up to France for help with that Bridget comment. It just shows Trump would F.K. anything to get ahead. V. Sick man, I pray for goodness to prevail. At Free Living Lead. Final nail in the coffin for my growing distrust of Trump. At user WV5HN5LG4M. 165 little girls and 14 teachers were killed by 2 Tomahawk missiles fired by a U.S. Navy ship. At Yadararojas 9067. Charlie said college is a scam. At Vipebidezine, Me3UW. Butler, I think Trump found out exactly who tried to kill him. AMD that got him into place. At Mary:72. Candace teaching the disgraced POTUS. Pure gold. At JustWanderin 847. America should just mind their own business. Stay out of all foreign wars. Bring all of our troops home from every country and end all foreign aid to every country. Get U.S. out of the United Nations and the UN out of the U.S. Get U.S. out of NATO. At TJS44_. I was Trump's #1 guy in his first term and his second up until the people are still talking about Epstein thing. It was hard coming to terms and accepting how wrong I was about him and my feelings for those who hated him. I'm the hardest conservative I've ever been. Trump is nothing but a Republican fraud like the rest of them. Anyone who still plays the left versus right game is so far behind. At Jihadjamur2171. I have and never will trust anyone up at the top. They have all been corrupted or compromised, and I've just been able to see right through all the lies. With that said, I will be comfortable and confident and will be able to breathe a sigh of relief when, and only if I see the following. POTUS Tucker Carlson v. POTUS Candace Owens or vice versa SBTH Megyn Kelly, and though I have my disagreements on certain topics with Alex Jones, we can put him up there as well. I don't do any kind of social media except for YouTube if you consider that YT is social media. But Candace, I started watching/following you on YouTube around 2022/2023, and before that your voice irked my soul, and I don't know, or maybe I do know what changed my mind about you and the others mentioned above, but I started listening to you TC and MK, and many things you guys say make so much sense, logical, and purely sane. I don't know why I waited so long to listen/watch you guys' videos, but I'm here now and I'm not going anywhere. I know that you've given up on politics, but I really feel you guys can actually make a huge change 'cause you already are. So if you guys can get together and run for the presidency, I think you guys have a great chance of actually winning, so consider, and let's get the ball rolling. P.S. You have a huge army behind you. Low IQ or highest Americans all want the same things, leaders that want the best interest for the nation. I'm Muslim, but I wouldn't mind a majority Christian country being the leaders of this nation. After all, us Muslims are waiting for the return of Jesus, and it will be a great day and an honor to see you and the others mentioned making the tough decisions for the sake of the American people and humanity itself. As for me, I think that you all would be great leaders. Truth in God is on your side, and no one or evil forces can ever take that away from you. Hashtag on the list is dismantling the relationship between the U.S. and Israel. You are a light at the end of this dark tunnel we are in. I know you can't do everything, but we can start with dismantling the relationship between the U.S. and Israel and go from there. I am just a normal person, but I am willing to help anyway to my capacity. Number 2028 TC/CO/MK/AJ. Let's get this ball rolling. At Elibrat. How many edibles did Trump have before writing that post? Just asking questions. At Stevie Starfire. Whatever is in the bottom of the files that we haven't seen must be really, really bad, because what we have seen is the most depraved and disgusting nastiness. At Lori, RC1VX. You go, girl. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. At Agnieszka Sokolowska 9983. I don't think POTUS write it. It sound more like Levin. At Stephen Perry 2157. Trump did something unspeakable on Epstein Island. Epstein gave it to Netanyahu. That's why Israel has Trump strung up by a wire. He's Israel's puppet until Trump's term is over. At Ping Mercedes 7614. Man, Charlie would have absolutely been included if he were still alive. All of this has really impacted my relationship with fellow Christians. So many believe Israeli first, even before Christianity. At newvibes_. Hope you had a lovely Easter with your family and Brett Cooper and Theo Vaughn. All of you are incredibly based. Don't let the haters, even Trump, get to you. At Dulcie TV6MH. Bill and Hillary Clinton, along with Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, will always be associated with the Epstein files. President Trump was Mr. Epstein target/the mark. At Blue Sky 1 G7V. Trump is such a liar and the biggest simpleton there is. If it were not for Meghan, Tucker, Alex Jones, Candace Owens, Trump would have lost the election. Like, Evertone knows that. At Nathan Jones 8003. Reading P. Trump claim, I am MAGA, reminded me of King Louis XIV claiming that he was the state. Well, there is a new MAGA movement now. It is Make Authenticity Great Again. The people are tired of the lies and the betrayals. The game is up for these demonic souls running our country. Their time is coming to a close. Their scam has played out. It is going to get real ugly before it gets any better, and it will never, never change unless people stop voting for either party. It is our only hope short of open revolt. These are pivotal days we are living in. An all too real good versus evil, light versus darkness battle. We need to character up. Truth matters. At Barraquebeats. Somebody needs to make an AI video of 2016-based Trump debating the 2026 Trump. At Woshliwo. I just heard this song a few minutes ago, and it's very fitting. I'm going to need to listen to more of her music. And she's a doctor. I am May's good citizen. Everyone should listen to it. I wasn't sure if I could post a link, so I'll just let everyone go find it on here. At Audrey Dixon 5776. Donald Trump/the King has no clothes. The story describes a vain emperor who is swindled by two con men/Israel posing as weavers. They claim to weave a magnificent fabric that is invisible to anyone who is incompetent or stupid. At Anthony M. Lissy. Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, I humble pray for our country and the people of this planet. Please guide us into your will. Amen. MAGA died with Charlie. When we were handed a false narrative and fed slop, it was over. I know that Charlie is so proud of you, Candace. Go Max. At Sunrise 1448. Candace is not only great citizen and person, but a great teacher. My English, thanks to her, improved so much. Where have you seen great teachers with low IQ? It is so far from reality. At Thor6471. Donald Trump doesn't lead, he lashes out. Whenever anyone disagrees with him, his only response is a pathetic barrage of childish insults, low IQ, loser, dummy, fake news, or whatever juvenile slur his fragile ego spits out in the moment. This isn't strength or toughness, it's the hallmark of a weak, insecure man who is intellectually incapable of defending his own ideas. He cannot argue a single point with logic, evidence, or coherence because he possesses neither. Instead, he reveals himself as a small, petulant child in a suit, throwing tantrums the moment his fragile worldview is challenged. True leadership persuades, builds consensus, and rises above dissent. Trump does the opposite. He exposes his own emptiness, insecurity, and profound weakness every single time someone dares to contradict him. No president has ever made disagreement look so embarrassing for the man in charge. At Christacarol8125. That 100% poll was exactly like the vote totals going backwards in 2020 on live TV. You can't unsee the BS. At Anna Hariskalana. These people forget they can't take all their money with them when they go. At Gloria Cons. Candace Owens, using the political aspect of Gladiator film to respond to Trump's attack on her, Tucker Carlson, and Megyn Kelly is crazy and brilliantly precise. As a proud precision nerd, I am not crying at all. I love it. At Always Carrying. Trump has definitely been compromised by Epstein, who has loads of blackmail material against him. This is obvious. At Sashaross6069. Man, I used to be ashamed of my weekly screen time report my phone gives me, but the last few months watching Candace, Tucker, Lionel, when I see my screen time report I think, with a head nod, time well spent. Love everything you do, Candace and Tucker. At Consuelid Costa 29. The further a society drifts from the truth, the more it will hate those that speak it. George Orwell. All truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident. Arthur Schopenhauer. At Soaring Weights. I give you kudos for dragging him, Candace, because if he really wrote that, he definitely deserves it now. I still say he's not that dumb. He's being threatened or something because this whole thing is way off, just like COVID-19 scam. Maybe Trump has been dead for a while, who really knows? Stand-ins can flourish even with wives if necessary. Especially if they have been severely threatened. I don't know, maybe I am a conspiracy theorist, but I know this something is way off and I don't care what they call me. At John Henry Says Hi. Candace Owens, you're beautiful inside and out. God bless you always. At Tinabatone 257. Candace. In a world of good people who get beaten down to the point where standing up for what is right imperatively must take a back seat in order to salvage what's left of their dignity, you never tuck your tail between your legs or allow these cronies to get in your head or beat you down, and that is such an admirable trait. That is the reason the Zio Nation orchestrates countless attempts at smearing you, and the fact that you refuse to bend the knee to their psychological warfare gives me hope that maybe this sinking ship of a nation can still be rescued. Keep fighting the good fight. At Simply_Mickey. My goodness, what on earth do they have on Trump? He is unrecognizable. At CindyPage7563. Sounds like Trump change. I don't love him or trust him anymore. I'm out of this game. If we choose not to play, the game is over. At Sarah Harrington 2921. Someone recently mentioned something to me that I had heard a million times before. They said, we have to remember the past so we can know where we're going. Powerful words to be true. The reality to that statement lies here. This is a world full of lost souls, exhausted people searching for truth in all things. Searching for understanding. There is so much corruption and so many falsehoods embedded within history. We all seem to inherently know that our past is not the guiding light to draw us into the future we thought. We have been aimlessly seeking truth because we have not yet heard it. We innately know when the truth is being spoken. Candace, you, Tucker, Megyn, and Alex are warriors for truth. Thank you so much for fighting the good fight every day and giving us the not so pretty but real truth. Bill Cooper, RIP, tried to tell us years ago. Ever looking for some more truth? Feel free to read God's word. He is the way. He is the truth. Christ is King. Go Max. Thank you, Candace. At Paul Steph Williams. Trump is owned by Israel, and he will do whatever Benjamin tells him to. What a disappointment, or maybe even treason. At LSU Odyssey. Trump faked his own $8 nation and helped Rail set up Charlie's, I have no doubt. They covered that up too. At Kendo4242. And also, DHT's comment when asked by a reporter why the USA was going to war in Iran. He said, "Oh, out of habit. If I was the parent of a service member in harm's way, that would not land well at all." At Queen V Nene. Looks like the deep state dismantled Trump before he could them. At ReloveD. Please continue to tell everyone it is different sides of the same coin so we can all come together and stop letting them divide us. At Annie6460. Hi Candace and team, you have out this response together so eloquently. And yes, I want to shout it out to the whole world. Abundant blessings. Australia, United States. At Acutalilment 8035. 26:45. The real question is, what does Bibi have on Trump? That he is killing his entire base and everyone that risked so much to support him. I think Bibi and Israel has the Epishtin files. Full stuff. The real incriminating stuff. At have you even said thank you once? 35:10. I mean, evidently, Tucker is special enough for Loomer to immediately run to the president. If he's a nobody, why would she care so much, and why would the president bother to respond to someone that's not special? At Sarah O'Hara 2504. Candace, great open letter to Trump. I'm a 3-time Trump voter, and I even knocked on doors for him as a volunteer to try to get him elected. He is disgraceful, and I will never admire him again. If I could go back in time, I still wouldn't have voted for Kamala though. I would have just withheld my vote. At Sublime Maka. Thank you, Candace, for coming back early to set things straight. How delusional can the leader of the free world be? It literally made me feel sick reading his tweet. I support America, I support you. Christ is King. Go Max. At HMS 3412. My friend is half Christian Palestinian. Her mother's Christian family had to escape the tyranny of Israel, who stabbed pregnant women to kill babies in their bellies. Documented fact. Her mom married a South Lebanese man who was Muslim, and him and his family took in her grandmother and aunties. She tells me stories of her father literally becoming a fighter to save their lives. South Lebanon is full of these refugees and fighters who later became Hezbollah. You want to stop Hezbollah from existing, then stop Israel from attacking civilians. Just because they're not European white, it doesn't mean they're not humans. Israel kills Christians, and that's a fact of history. Beirut is almost half Christian. And Israel literally bombed their homes. I have a Christian Lebanese work colleague, and a rocket barely missed his son 2 weeks ago as he was going to university. No Middle Eastern Christians support Israel. But does it matter? Do they matter? Does the testimony and experience of non-white Christians matter? And why Muslim blood is okay to be shed? Did Jesus actually kill anyone or promoted the killing of any ethnic/religious group? Stories of rockets disfiguring children in Lebanon, similar to what happened in Gaza, is all over the internet, but of course colonial supremacy consider them non-humans. Rockets killing every form of life when they hit animals and plants, not only humans. Is this what God wants? Addy Bike Rider. I bet Israel never thought for 1 second that by assassinating Charlie Kirk, they would inadvertently wake up so many people to how evil Israel really is. And then the Epstein files revealed how much blackmail and extortion they use against Western leaders. Trump. I would love to see Israel be cut off by Western countries and then see how many wars they want to start with their neighbors so they can steal their land. At Donalembo 4243. Candace laid out what's happening with real clarity and grace. It's a shame. We have lost a president who could have been truly great. At Amanda Potoknik 9845. Thank you for speaking for most of America. I agree 100%. At the Plant-Based Homestead. Still waiting for that golden age he promised Americans. I'm America first. I'll always be America first. At Karma Crypt. Candace, you hit the nail on the head. Trump is a compromised puppet. At Jamili's08. Holy Father in heaven bless and protect Candace Owens, she is a real treasure. At Sandarazza 2311. Trump is deranged. At this point it is painfully obvious. At Merc Madam. The Macron swimsuit shot took me out. At Shalia Dennehy. Thank you, Candace, for your handling of this. This makes no sense right now, and he called MTG Marjorie traitor Brown. Who is that? So much of this statement he put out is contradictory, and you nailed it. I guess question is, who are the high power people he is scared of? Because these things he said make no sense and clues were dropped like the reference to CNN. Now he loves CNN? Who owns it now? Another clue to one of the whom they are? At Token Jester. There will never be a better time for a third party to break through in America. At Miss Sways. Everything in this world is temporary, but the state of your soul is for eternity. Put God first. At Doze 1492. You are very gracious to Alex Jones, and to President Trump for that matter. I love your Christian heart. At Maria Christensen, H2V. Please bring out the truth about who and how they killed Charlie Kirk. This is the most important for good to win over evil. Disgusting how Donald Trump betrayed Charlie Kirk. Do you think Donald Trump was in on the Butler assassination? This makes it so disgusting how he was parading Mr. Compatory, who died that day. Donald Trump at minimum knows who the killers are and maybe he is in on it, and he covers up. They paid a lot of money to the widow to keep her from asking questions. At Humayoun, F3P. Isn't it about time Candace, Tucker, Alex, and Joe, who have approximately 150 million followers, unite under the banner of liberating America from Israeli Zionist occupation and the corrupt two-party system? Imagine how many millions would rally to the cause. At Taylorkers, Kurtangapul 3249. Just as every instrument is needed to command an orchestra to make a song, as is the silence between notes. In this sense, Maestro Charlie's absence is the silence, and from it, we're understanding so much more about what we have been hearing all along. At Rocket 9053. President Trump, I'm sorry, sir, but Tucker Carlson lost his job speaking out on your behalf, sir. Remember, in your circle that is in your ear. You need to get rid of especially that whack job of a religious leader in the White House. She is a sociopath. At Rogenvid 3L. Candace. Y'all need to start a movement to change America First Patriots voting registration from Republican to Independent. This is the only way to take a stand. Voted for Trump 3 times. This is the final crash out after Epstein. Let's go. Get Theo on board, start a movement. Just change the balance of voters. At VicPrus 6843. In the entire history of mankind, there has never been a political elite concerned about the well-being of regular people, and it isn't any different now. German MEP Christine Anderson. At Washington 1016. I am so disappointed in Trump. I have watched every speech and prayed for him. I looked forward to his success in his second term. Now I have not watched one thing with him, because I just can't. It makes me so sad and discouraged. He is just another politician. I feel like I wasted 10 years following and praying for him. At Beach Coconut 1208. Charlie died free, you will die a slave. Wow. That will ring in his soul. At Panda Machine. Trump always spoke like this. The outrage of his posts is based on whether or not you're the one being attacked. At ThinkBeforia Type 7106. Trump started a war of aggression against Iran in order to distract the people from the Epstein file. But the war backfired significantly to the point where his wife and administration are bringing up the Epstein file just to distract us from the devastating loss in the Iran war. At Mandirivs. Trump promised to drain the swamp and rapidly became the biggest swamp in the world. At Big Futria Structures 2163. Shame on you, Donald Trump. You really let everyone down. Truth will set you free. At Lear 6066. Candace, you rock. I pray for you and your family. Please keep digging. I know you will, because you're a fighter. Thank you for the truth. Greetings from Germany. At Rick, B5N3P. God, please protect Candace, Tucker, Megyn Kelly, and Joe Rogan from these lunatics. At Sondamseaver8821. All truth passes through 3 stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident. At KingsleyMadu2188. Trump says to Charlie Kirk and Andrew Colvett that he's gonna take the money and screw the Zionists over. Kirk gets eliminated. Trump gets 2 attempts to his life and Andrew gets promoted, damn near upgraded in the dark spiritual realm. Let's figure out who is the betrayer. At Cowrell7774. 1 hour ago, edited. The people who made the shadows on the wall seem real to Trump was those who supported and voted this demon into office. At Mrs. ANGRYH. When I first heard Trump's response to Charlie Kirk's death, I knew in that moment that Trump was involved in his death. At Avlavala2131. Melania Trump coming out now to refute claims she had anything to do with Epstein and his world makes it all the more suspicious. They're scared we are all waking up and are alert to their devilish ways. At Consuelid Costa 29. In that opening video audio of TP's premiere, the crazy part is if Charlie said, they'll, PeopleZ, figure it out, and who will lead PeopleZ if he's not there, then it's completely irrational why right after that he would say, I appoint Erica, if something would happen to him. At truthseeker.c.w. I can only imagine your conversations with your priest right now, Candace. God bless you. Let's get this amazing Catholic women and sister in Christ an award already, please. At TurnerMan17. For the government of United States of America to properly represent American citizens, I believe that all special interest dollar from AIPAC, Big Oil, Big Pharma, Big Tech, etc. needs to be removed from politics, or we will continue to have this conversation over and over and over. At DaveCannon2825. Outstanding rebuttal from America's own drop-dead gorgeous, super intelligent, investigative podcaster. All men love CO. Trump is an embarrassing creep. At Chewing the Void. Not even the same game. Candace is playing chess. Trump is still figuring out the rules. At Hawaii_o. What happened to the Trump that was running for president? Because that man and the man he is right now today are different people, he forgets that Candace helped him get elected. SMH. At Ralph Cramden 4816. It's true. I was Big MAGA. No more. No more BC of Charlie Kirk. Not even Epstein. Charlie. At Shanggizi 118. It's crazy that people will proudly and willingly send their kids to fight in a BS war. Especially after living through BS wars, like 9/11. We all know it was an inside job and that there were no weapons of mass destruction. It's all about money, oil, and power, and so many on each side died, all because of a lie. They use the same playbooks, and because it's Trump, they go against their own initial views and morals and side with him. They idolize him and act like they know him personally. So many of us voted for him because he claimed to be against wars, but because he creates an excuse to have won, his hardcore followers just go along with it, like they're in a trance. If a Dem was in office and doing the exact thing Trump is doing right now with this war, all hell would break loose in the MAGA party. Same thing with the Epstein files. If they were handled the exact same way with a Dem in office, they wouldn't just be dismissing them like they do now. The same people who thought logically, did their own research, and were against the propaganda with COV/the jab, even after being told to just shut up and trust the science, are the very ones trusting the propaganda now. When you don't agree with everything Trump says, they call you a liberal or claim that you have TDS. As if it's not okay to think for yourself and criticize Trump when he's not doing what he ran on during his campaign trail. It's extremely bizarre. Don't let the cult get to ya. Go FNK Max. At JustAWade336. OMG, Laura really looks like that? I thought all those pictures were overly edited. El Mayo. At Merscot1. Loomer is a certified nutcase. And how dare they act like this is anything but genocide. And they hide behind the Holocaust when they are committing it themselves. It's not about the Muslim religion, it's about the extermination of a group of people, and that crazy bat just said it out loud. All that talk about being a man and being strong, and Trump is doing the bidding of these crazy itches. I hope he will realize what they have done to him, and he stand up and takes them all out and gets back to his promises to the real citizens that love America and America first, and that's the only thing that will save him and America. He turned on Elon, betrayed Charlie Kirk after his death and allowed the cover-up, and he sold out America $100 million and a hotel in Gaza. WDH, he does need money if you listen to Trump, so he sold out his legacy for that. He could have been the greatest president. Now he is the great deceiver. Is he the one that the Bible said would come to power, loved by many and thought to be there to save them, but does a 180 degrees, and is he the Antichrist, or does he usher him in? Gotta go read it again. At Lami3Chop. Your opening speech moved me about Charlie. It still hurts losing him. At Colleen Scully, VC7XS. As much as I absolutely despise Trump, I gotta say I'm pretty grateful he is exposing how corrupt the United States truly is. Even if that wasn't his intention, he still did it. At this point in the game, the only recourse we the people have is to let the whole thing burn to the ground and start it all over again. At SandItion. The Bridget Macron comment. He's not lucid. At Amrichelt1. Candace. I watch you every day and you still never failed to bring your A game, but this? Oh. My. You're straight and icy. Killing it and with sarcasm and class. You and Tucker are the most articulate, sarcastic, direct, and honest people that exist. And for those of us that appreciate your level of decorum while speaking straight truth, you are greatly appreciated and highly respected. At Summy989. All wars are banker wars. Don't forget that. These data centers are slavery centers for the control grid. Silicon Valley Satanists have formed public-private partnerships and they need Iran for digital control dollar system. No matter how many get killed in Iran, including our own, they profit big time. Win or lose, they win. The Genius Act and stable coins will take our natural resources, forests, waterways, farmlands, lakes, mountains, and sell them to the robber barons. The biggest theft in human history. Another canal closes, the world will plunge into famine. The real enemy sits above governments in Masonic secret societies. World leaders are all Masonic. Look at the symbolism on the back of a dollar bill. Understand this. We can win by pulling the lower bricks off the power pyramid. Get the lower member Masons to quit. At Flycow69. I watch your videos. I do not like your politics, but I found you very beautiful. That is my 2 cents. I know why American politicians are under the payroll of Israel. It's because Mossad have the dirt on every politician in America, including the Epstein criminal Trump. At Lori Bagley 3484. Trump has been blackmailed because of the Epstein files, don't know why. At the MLA1. Alex Jones is right. This post was written by Mark Levin. At Fuyu S9Z. What was Butler really about? We need to really look at that. At Nah Man I'm Out. Trump talks about IQ like some men talk about size. At Yaknwari 2666. Truer words have never been said. Thanks so much, Candace. I voted for Trump but feel exactly like you stated. Thanks be to God for your truth. I will never be MAGA or any follower of a movement. You can't trust that they will keep their word. At Ali G2K. Who the hell is running the gov, because something weird is going on there. At Sofner 6833. He's citing CNN polls. The world, like my stomach, has truly turned. We aren't in Kansas anymore. At Foolish Feller. The miraculous neck theory makes me think that stories about Trump's head turn that saved his life, being miraculous, was just more of the same Fed slop. At Vigabdpa 1991. I was never a fan of Trump, but he has completely lost it on every level now. At XDY_Chulo. My ex went to NY May where Trump went for HS. The rumor he told me before Trump was political was that he never graduated high school. NY May after the fact helped him hide it. At Mamug 4160. Trump should put his family in a safety bunker and get back to America first. He's obviously being blackmailed with their lives. At Dynam. Ever since Trump said, "Why is everyone still talking about Epstein?" it was obvious he is now someone else's puppet, and it's only gotten worse. This is extremely sad. At John Waggard. Hashtag POTUS stop killing in my name. We voted for you 3 consecutive elections because we wanted the swamp drained, the Epstein files released, Epstein prosecutions, and no new wars. At Neil Danny 7450. How did what Trump said about Miriam Adelson get to the ears of her? There were only Charlie and Andrew in the room. Charlie, I believe, has the integrity to not tell on Trump. But Andrew? How righteous is he? At Dan Stewart 2770. George W. Bush, who ordered the war in Iraq, widely agreed to be the single worst foreign policy decision in American history and one of the worst presidents in American history, has suddenly become a huge cheerleader for Donald Trump. Knowing that Trump's decision to attack Iran has taken over first place among the worst foreign policy decisions in American history, and with that, the title of worst American president. At Purple Gang 47. Great job, Candace. I was with him since the escalator. I voted and I donated. But I cut him loose when he started extrajudicial killing of Venezuelan boat people. At his great disloyalty to you, Meghan, Tucker, and Alex, I was not surprised. At Nina Malibu. Future generations would never understand how crazy these years have been. Starting 2020. I hate it. At legend_aga__1660. Trump is a broken man who is just nothing but a contradiction. He talks about college, but then Charlie Kirk advocates for not going to college. He loves Charlie. He talks people a lot IQ. If Tarka Candace Kelly is low IQ, then most of us people are absolute morons to him, and he has no respect for anybody. Quite frankly, I don't know what's happened to him. Is being replaced, possessed? I don't know anymore. Luckily, he will not be a president forever, and his end and karma will come. Alex Jones turned on Candace, where in fact she is one of not too many people that actually have his back. At Loveroff Light 9. This show is worthy of watching twice. Get him, Candace. At Gary Hamilton 8211. Candace, I have been on 49:26, the knowing end of this reality, since 2006. I'm 61 years old. And this episode responding to Trump's unhinged tweet was the first time in my life where I actually feel a movement coming, and that you have taken what those of us who have been ridiculed for over 20 years for trying to scream your interpretation of this reality and being called crazy conspiracy theorists. You are taking the numbers it took us 20 years to finally start helping people get it, and you are tenching those numbers with every episode. This episode actually made me cry a few times, finally feeling like we have a chance at fighting back. The more we stick together, the better chance we will have. At Molly S3J. I've wondered when and what Trump knew about Charlie Kirk's brutal assassination. I don't anymore. It's clear. At Octocom. One of the best episode, Candace is back. Trump's post, it's almost like a distinction. The best journalist, for Tucker, Meghan, and Candace, or hostage cry for help. At Jineandri 7478. Politicians and their friends are not trustworthy, but the opposite. At Nerdscriber. Candace, Tucker, Alex, and Meghan need to form a new political party in the US. I think there would be enough common agreement between them and voter backing there to be a contender against the other two parties. At Cheryl Rules. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump DO have a lot of similarities in how they use people as an ends to a means and protect predators. Did you know they were actually good friends for many years? Bill and Donald were very buddy-buddy. At the Rag 19. The world powers have already discussed how to split the rest of the world between them so they can rob the world of their materials and money and land. So what we see here is how secure Trump feels in his power above that he doesn't even care about the truth or the population's opinions. He is straight out careless because he thinks he is above the population of the world, just as some other world leaders. In Revelation, it is written that nation will rise against nation before the second coming of our Lord. We can see clearly this is a world war of good versus evil. No other reason, and it's so clear and definitive that they don't care anymore if we can see it or not. They know they won't be stopped until Jesus comes back and are just going all in. Deep down they know they are doomed. At Memoir Note. The biggest losers are those who have lost/sold their souls. At Clive Adams 9128. Thanks for responding to Trump's attack with so much grace and in so timely a manner. We needed a Friday shot of truth from our dear friend Candace Owens. Stay strong and safe in God's hands. At PhilipsDroll7385. Everyone knows Israel tried to assassinate Trump. How do we know? There are no Iranians working within the CIA, FBI, SS, White House. But Israel does. Peter Thiel is all up in there. At Jaka Street. Either it was them in Pennsylvania or it was some kind of a planned hoax, and boy Lumiere is a total lunny. That is a Trump advisor, no wonder he is going nuts. At Kamalasana9990. When Candace Owens gives a dressing down, it is calm, methodical, and devastating. At Cecilabel, Z2P. Why are we still pretending like Donald Trump wrote that and not Israel? The same with Trump's messages on Easter. I believe Israel has taken full control. Trump's hands are tied. This is war for us, just as it is for Iran. Our attack is just happening from an inside angle. At Robert Gulfstream. All governments are satanic. All governments betray their people. At Agni Escobarzos. OMG, I can't believe he posted. Here, in Poland, we got such a different perspective what he posted, but the fact is, when I read that, I have a feeling it's written by a child who is angry and can't deal with own emotions and feelings. At Sissini Strand 816. I was MAGA, I'm now America first. Ty Candace. At MJRG9KP. Trump is giving, yeah, I'm the pizza chief vibes. At Then It Workin' G. I always say the right wing and the left wing are still part of the same bird. At Silvapric, K5H. Wow. This was not on bingo card. What a crazy world we live in. At Life of Siblings. Candace, you are the queen of roasts, but with the truth. At Dr. Jazz WTF. Did anyone else have a good look at Trump's ear and notice there wasn't a little bit missing? At Bish89. I choked on my water when I heard her read the comparison between herself and the first man of France. It's over. The president has officially lost his $D and mind. At Camilla Vantaggioto. Thank you, Candace. Love from Rome. Keep up the good work. At Thinkbeforia Type 7106. Israel's Netanyahu brings his dirty laundry to Washington. Literally, over the years, the Israeli leader has developed a reputation among the staff at the U.S. President's guest house for bringing special cargo on his trips to Washington, bags and suitcases full of dirty laundry. According to U.S. officials familiar with the matter, the Netanyahus are the only ones who bring actual suitcases of dirty laundry for us to clean, said one U.S. official, who like others spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss the details of a foreign leader's visits. After multiple trips, it became clear this was intentional. Source: Times of Israel, Haaretz, Business Insider, Guardian, Washington Post, etc. At 3v3re2. If he sold out Candace, Tucker, Meghan, and Alex, imagine how casually he did the same to Charlie. At Galaxy34653. This text is Diaper Don's undoing. He can't outrun the depravity that he's been blackmailed with. The people surrounding him and advising him are bringing him down quickly. At Ablaconception 5589. It's a whole different vibe when the loudest person knows that we know that they don't actually believe any of the things they are saying. But as stipulated, they continue the proclamation and fill the air with an energy that flips it from impassioned and scathing to just embarrassing by association and the most extreme pity that can be conjured. Pity for all. For the ones that haven't went numb and jaded and disassociate all day, that this is what we get. It's all so fucked. I haven't heard a single realistic solution to this fuckery. It has to stop. At Dan Cutler 7941. If I were Trump, I wouldn't put Candace down. I would invite her to the White House and ask her how come she's smarter than the CIA, FBI, NSA, etc. At Tangi Jones 80. I have never thought I would in this world, seeing the president write some 4th grade letter about people who they don't like. He has lost it. At Stephen Holden 2814. That's real. Alex Jones seriously helped him get elected. At Ruby Watkins, Op2HS. There is no trust amongst thieves, they turn on a dime. At Hellsbells 2582. College is overrated. It's an indoctrination institution. At Nate_the_great 23. I don't think Trump has the IQ for this episode. At Michaela Riffs. Why does the president's closest advisor have a FKN podcast? At James Nielsen Graham Levinth 1301. Shocking to hear of Trump being effectively bribed to facilitate Israel's takeover of the West Bank. This explains much. At Darlin Essemans 1. I have come to believe Pete Hegseth, Trump, Kash Patel, Erica, PeopleZ, Israel, Mossad, CIA, FBI, Freemasons, Mormons, etc. are all participants in assassinating Charlie. At NewVibes_. MAGA is dead and got replaced by Never Trumpers. I miss when Trump's tweets were short, were actual tweets and weren't just schizo rants about how great Israel is. His posts now are literally the leftist memes be like meme come to life. At RiceBatty 3542. Post. It's long but interesting. The post is a mess of ego defense, personal grievance, propaganda, and dominance signaling. It reads less like statecraft and more like an angry, impulsive rant by someone who takes disagreement as betrayal. Main problems in the post. It substitutes insult for argument. He does not seriously engage the foreign policy disagreement. He attacks intelligence, looks, careers, status, and personal worth. That is not persuasion. It is intimidation theater. It contradicts itself. He says these people are irrelevant, nobodies, and that nobody cares about them. But then he writes a very long, emotionally charged attack on them. You do not spend that much energy attacking people you truly think do not matter. It reveals obsession with status. The repeated themes are not policy, evidence, or national interest. They are who got fired, who is invited on TV, who gets clicks, who is respected, who is beautiful, who is a loser, who is a winner. That is the value system of celebrity warfare, not presidential leadership. It uses crude in-group propaganda. MAGA agrees with me. That is a classic attempt to define the group by personal loyalty. Not, here is the argument. Not, here is the evidence. Just, the tribe agrees with me, therefore dissenters are outside the tribe. It makes weak causal jumps. He implies criticism from Tucker, Kelly, Owens, and Jones is rooted in low IQ and attention-seeking rather than actual disagreement over war, Iran, intervention, or U.S. policy. That is a dodge. It avoids the real issue. It relies on absolutist language. Everyone knows it. Nobody cares about them. They always will be losers. The United States is now the hottest country anywhere in the world. This is not careful speech. It is exaggerated, emotionally loaded, crowd conditioning language. It personalizes everything. He frames political disagreement as a personal attack against him. That is a major tell. Mature leadership separates personal ego from public office. This post fuses them. It shows poor impulse control. A president or former president seeking to act presidential should understand the difference between strategic communication and emotional discharge. This reads like discharge. It contains obvious manipulative framing. He ties disagreement with him to sympathy for Iran getting nuclear weapons. That is a pressure tactic. If you oppose me, you are effectively helping the enemy. That is a false narrowing of the debate. It shows insecurity, not strength. Strong people do not usually need this many repetitions of loser, low IQ, I won, I'm right, they're nothing. That kind of overcompensation usually points the other way. On lies, distortions, and propaganda inside the text. The biggest propaganda move is not one single factual lie. It is the framing architecture. He turns a policy disagreement into a morality test. He turns critics into traitors, fools, and frauds. He treats popularity as proof of truth. He treats insults as evidence. He treats group identity as a substitute for reasoning. That is textbook demagogic rhetoric. The post also contains internal dishonesty in tone. He wants to appear above these people, but the post itself proves he is not above them. He wants to appear strong, but the emotional overreaction suggests he feels challenged. He wants to appear focused on world affairs, but most of the text is gossip-level personal abuse. Is it fitting for a POTUS? No. Not because presidents must sound polite all the time, but because the office requires discipline, proportionality, and seriousness. This post is juvenile, vindictive, and self-centered. It lowers the office. It sounds more like a tabloid feud than executive leadership. Deep dive on the likely mental state of the writer. I cannot diagnose a person from one post, and anyone claiming certainty from a screenshot is bluffing. But the writing strongly suggests several things. First, wounded narcissistic rage. The length, intensity, and personal nature of the attack suggests the criticism hit a nerve. This does not read like calm confidence. It reads like ego injury followed by retaliation. Second, compulsive dominance assertion. The repeated need to rank people as winners and losers, high status and low status, relevant and irrelevant, points to someone whose mind is heavily organized around dominance hierarchies. Third, insecurity masked as bravado. People who are actually secure usually do not need to insist this many times that others are stupid, broken, ugly, unwanted, or insignificant. The need to keep asserting superiority suggests fragility underneath. Fourth, personalization of dissent. The writer appears unable or unwilling to tolerate disagreement as normal. Dissent is processed not as a competing view, but as disloyalty or personal attack. That is a dangerous trait in a leader. Fifth, emotional impulsiveness. The post shows poor filtering. It includes lines that a disciplined political operator would cut because they make him look petty, unstable, or distracted. That suggests either weak restraint or belief that raw aggression is politically rewarding. Sixth, grandiosity. Phrases like the country being the hottest anywhere in the world, broad declarations of total alignment with the movement, and self-positioning as uniquely capable all point to inflated self-concept. Seventh, fixation on humiliation. He is not just disagreeing. He is trying to degrade. That matters. The post is structured to humiliate critics socially, intellectually, professionally, and personally. That is a revenge impulse. Most likely reading. This was written by someone who felt publicly challenged, took it personally, and responded in a state of agitated ego defense. The tone suggests resentment, impulsiveness, thin-skinned sensitivity to criticism, high need for dominance, and a strong habit of replacing argument with humiliation. What it does not suggest calm confidence. It does not suggest emotional balance. It does not suggest presidential temperament. It does not suggest someone focused primarily on policy substance. It suggests a man who experiences criticism as injury and tries to restore control through verbal destruction. That is the core of it. At Big Bo C. I blame you, Candace, along with all the other MAGA cult members who voted for Trump. Why would you think a rich man that came from a wealthy family care about we the people? Trump never cared about the working class, and he definitely doesn't care about the poor or disenfranchised people. In my opinion, he doesn't even care about America. Trump only cares about ensuring that him and his family and his rich buddies get richer. Y'all voted for this clown, and now we all are paying the price. MAGA is a joke and Trump is a PDF, or at the very least, a PDF protector. And most of MAGA still supports this POS. At Daisy0723. Narcissists, they explode when exposed. At Always Carrying. The meme comparing Bridget Macron to E.T. still makes me LMAO. At Nikisha1213. I really wish the USA was run by people like Candace Owens. At ThealPinecraftsman6952. Dear Candace, I see you as a very committed woman to truth and God, and I appreciate that a lot. Most of the time in your podcasts, I see the light of love coming out your eyes, but today I see sadness. And I understand where that sadness is coming from, and I would recommend to you to let yourself feel the sadness, and then maybe let us have a part of that sadness in doing a podcast about that. That would greatly help the audience. Thank you for everything. Alex. At AmyStole465. I hope Candace stays safe. She's poking all the bears. At JYGHC5I. 25th Trump and the whole $and regime into the bin with them and rebuild the government from ground up. You know that's the only answer now. The gauntlet has been thrown. At ParveenB218. The freedom tee he wore at the end has new meaning to me now. Candace Owens investigating the death of her best friend, in such public setting whilst grieving is a testament to her strength and character. This woman is an inspiration to us all for realizing things don't add up, and for uncovering the truth with receipts to back up her claims and never backing down. What a beautiful, lovely, godly woman. Charlie would be so proud. The police and the government have failed Charlie and his family. So grateful for Charlie's online fans. There should be no president or king leading a country once past a certain age. At Nadine Whittam 9140. Does anyone not see that Trump is potentially sending out an SOS? That his behavior is extra radical because it's the only way he can get any attention. He is known for saying outlandish and inappropriate stuff all of the time. Therefore, he has the only absolute absurd and untrue left to use as some kind of code. I think his family is in dire straits, that he is being blackmailed. He's far too arrogant and proud to leave the legacy that he is without very good reason. He changed immediately after Charlie's death. I think he's trying to be the captain of his sinking ship by doing anything he can to delay the inevitable long enough to save his family and crew. I think he's calling for help. At I am the Walrus 6700. So many incredible parts. But the edit of Netanyahu as Wormtongue whispering poison into the ear of Trump as Thodin at 1704 left me catatonic for minutes. Stunned into silence out of sheer awe and admiration at this unexpected collision of worlds. At Garib Pilot. I'm really curious to know why I'm subscribed, with notifications on, and I have to search for your episode every single time. At Remy Foster 7452. At Real Candace Owens still, to this day haven't heard anyone comment on what Rabbi Jonathan Cahn said on Roseanne Barr's podcast, episode 117, starting around the 44-minute mark about how what happened there, Butler, correlates to prophecy in the Torah. Right ear clipped, right hand touches it first, both shoes knocked off, just from what I collected from it. It's actually wild how many things connect together. But hey, this has already been said, the truth will be revealed. God bless you and your family, Candace. I pray God puts a hedge of protection around you and your loved ones, and guides you in this endeavor to seeking the truth. Christ is King. At Phyllis Westbury 5081. I still support Trump. I really listened to Candace starting back at the France supposed wife who was supposedly a man. Then the Blake drama. Never really committing to either. And then the Tim Pool hate drama. All I was seeing was hate, and more hate. Then I started watching Candace's eyes and getting weird evil vibes from her. Now, it's anti-Trump, anti-Israel everything. I still support him. Wondering why do they think they know more than Trump, who has all the information? Candace does not. Tucker does not. etc. Secondly, I put my faith and trust in God. I listen to my discernment. God hasn't let me down yet. I don't always get what I want. God knows what I need and his choices have always been right. I'm not a perfect, sinless person. So I don't deserve his grace, but he still gives it to me. Therefore, trusting Trump doesn't mean I always agree with everything he does. But I don't take my support away the second he does something I don't agree with. His plans have usually worked out for good. Mine would not have hindsight. As easily as Candace, Tucker, etc. turned on Trump, it made me think, they're control freaks, and I don't believe they were ever really pro-Trump. They just did a 182 darn easy and quickly. So it makes me think their only agenda is money and power over their followers. That's my 2 cents. Don't care if anyone likes it or not. I will still bless you in the name of Jesus. At Might Cerrutis. Literally 3 minutes in and full body chills. It is so obvious that Charlie was a brother in your eyes. We're all lucky to find even one person throughout our lives, outside of immediate family, that rides for us the way you do for him. Proud to be a Candace stan. At James Friedman 4645. If Trump was judging Miss Universe pageant, Bridget would be his winner. At Auchinleck McKenna 8821. I think it's time for the American people to put a young person in higher office, not these old dying rags who doesn't give a sh*t about our future because they know that their time on the planet is over. At Hellsbells 2582. The world is governed by satanic psychopaths intent on killing us all. At Jeffrey, BAD. Trump is an 80-year-old boomer. Nobody watches TV or any fake news. At DelphiDavy5784. The Donald only cares about how his family thinks of him, as he emphasized in his rant. Melania turned on him and brought up the Epstein files for her reasons without WH being aware. Peace, love, and love.